Alright, so pretty much this is going to be a yap session and more so just me talking rather than like explaining a lot of things. It's just me giving my general thoughts on the game and other things about Silksong as well. It's not usually what I make, but regardless, I hope you guys still enjoy it. So let's just get into it. Hollow Knight Silksong released a few weeks ago, so I'm gonna try to keep it a little spoiler free. I'm obviously gonna have to include some stuff from Act 2, maybe some Act 3 stuff, but I don't want to spoil absolutely everything. I'm gonna do as best as I can to only mention Act 1 and 2. So the secret Act 3, I will talk about it as in what I think of it, but not what's actually in there. So let's just get into it. Silksong. So starting off with the general gameplay, it's a huge improvement from Hollow Knight. I already thought Hollow Knight's gameplay was incredible. You know, I honestly think it's one of the best in a video game. Obviously, some of the combat stuff did leave a lot to be desired, and that's what Silksong improved in. Having multiple different combat styles, you have the Hunter, the Reaper, which is my personal favorite, and you also had the Wanderer, which is similar to what the Knight was. But you do have more DPS, so it's kind of like a quick slash build, more nail DPS, if that makes any sense. And then there's the Beast one, which I honestly didn't like. It's really bad, especially when it comes to platforming. But all in all, the combat of Silksong, it's a nice improvement overall. The tools are a really nice thing. My only complaint is if you die often, you're getting your ass beat pretty much. You're going to have to waste a lot of tool shards, which is basically what you need to recover the tools. So you need a lot of those, and in the early game it's easy to get them, so you won't have to worry about it much, but in later bosses you'll get your ass kicked a lot. Now that transitions over into the difficulty of this game. I think it's fair. I don't get why people are bitching about it online. The biggest complaint about people have is taking 2 damage in boss fights. I think it kind of makes sense in some boss fights in the original. This was in Hollow Knight as well, but not all bosses had it. Some notable bosses that did have it was Veiled Champion, Radiance, and Pure Vessel. If you have been spoiled for that, I am sorry, but this game has been out for damn near 8 years. Moving back to Silksong, most bosses do 2 damage. They have some attacks that do 1 damage, but that's not often. So you're mostly gonna take 2 damage in the boss fights, and even some normal enemies as well. I think the reason why people don't like it is because of how badly upgrades are handled in the early game. And if you've played Silksong, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't get your first upgrade until you recover Bellheart. You have to get really deep into the Citadel to get your first pale oil, which is your needle upgrade. It takes a good amount of time to get into. It took me like 20 hours just to get my first nail upgrade, mostly because I didn't know what to do, so I just had to kind of wing it and look up a guide, because there's this one specific gauntlet in the Citadel in High Halls, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna pull up a video on it. It's really difficult, and if you have a level 1 needle, it's fucking hell. So I had to do it. I tried fighting through it with a level 1 needle, and it just did not end up working as well as I thought. So upgrading the nail, I basically did that. But like I said, the way upgrades are handled in this game, in the early game at least, are really bad. You don't get your first nail upgrade until like a good portion of the game is done, and then getting the other nail upgrades. So you get 3 nail upgrades in Act 2, and then your final upgrade is in Act 3. I think you need to trigger Act 3 in order to get the final nail upgrade, which is the Hive Needle. Those 2 quests to get the final 2 pale oils are a bit of a pain, especially the meat quest, which you basically have to carry it similar to a delicate flower, but you're on a time limit, so it's a lot worse that way. But I was able to get it done in like my first 2 tries, so it wasn't all too bad. It's just you had to go all the way from Bellheart to the Citadel in the dining room, which was not very fun in my opinion. And overall, the difficulty of Silksong, the early game is really bad with the upgrade balancing. I think the second half of the game is a lot easier because you have the nail upgrades and you have, you know, the new silk tools, so you can be able to work with that. I also don't like how a lot of upgrades are also locked behind the Citadel as well. You obviously get your wall jump, you get your run. I obviously expected it to be a bit hard, or a lot harder than Hollow Knight, mostly because Hollow Knight in and of itself is a really difficult game, which is expected going into Silksong. I was expecting to, you know, learn it all again, because it's been quite some time since I last played Hollow Knight. I was expecting, you know, to get my ass kicked, and I did. I got my ass beat a lot in this game, whether it comes to bosses or exploration or just general enemies just beating me for no reason. But I was expecting difficulty. Some bosses are actually like actually not good when it comes to difficulty. I think it's fair for some people to talk about the Savage Beastfly, which is in a really enclosed arena. That boss is not fun because it's really difficult to telegraph or to tell when it's attacking, or it's really hard to telegraph it, and that wasn't the case with the Savage Beastfly. Some bosses weren't all too bad. Notable bosses that I absolutely loved was First Sinner, Clockwork Dancers. That was a really good boss. It was like Mantis Lord done all over again, which I absolutely love that boss. All of Lace's fights, they're really good. The first and the second one before you reach the final boss, that one's really good. I really like both the Lace's fight, especially the area aesthetic of the second encounter in the flower field, which was really damn good. I absolutely love that fight. It's difficult, don't get me wrong, but it's still the music, the atmosphere, and everything. It's perfect. And I have to say, the boss fights for the most part, they're not too bad. They're an improvement from Hollow Knight, but again, just some are a couple of stinkers, especially the one in Biowater, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure you've seen a lot of people bitching about it on Twitter, which I have been as well. I'm not gonna be like, oh, just get good, but in some cases I'm like, okay, you actually just have to get good at the game, because there's no way you're bitching about this boss. I think I saw someone bitching about this fly boss in Greymoor, which I'll pull up an image of here, but a lot of the bosses in Silksong is really good. So I'm going to get to Act 1 here. Act 1 is good for the most part. I really like the areas. Farfields, really good area. A lot of the areas in Act 1 are good for the most part. I don't like Hunter's March. It's a small area, and going through it in the early game does suck, mostly because you still have a limited skill set to work with. But of course in the later half of the game, it's a lot easier to go through. Now they have no upgrades, the silk spells and all that good stuff. But yeah, just Hunter's March, not a very good area in my opinion. Blasted Steps is also an area, like it's cool visually, but it's annoying to navigate through. I didn't like Sinner's Road. That area fucking sucked. Biowater is also a terrible area as well. But for the most part, areas in Silksong were good. Deep Dogs looks nice. Farfields, as I said, it looks pretty good. And the soundtrack specifically played in that area, it reminds me of Ori and the Blind Forest. Massive kudos to Christopher Larkin for composing this soundtrack, because this soundtrack is honestly great. It's fantastic. But yeah, for the most part, Act 1, some good areas. Act 2, it's mostly just a bunch of small areas interconnected into one giant citadel, which I prefer over a whole bunch of new areas, because there's a lot of new areas. However, the citadel is like, it's hard to navigate through for the first time, and you're like lost all over the place. There's a ton of different parts of the citadel to explore, and the music is also done good as usual. My least favorite area in the citadel is the underworks, mostly because of how dark it is. And speaking of dark, a decent portion of the game is kind of in the dark, which is not fun. It's not as bad as Deepness without a flashlight, but still, I didn't like that you spend a decent amount of the game like in dark areas, especially like Biowater, Sinner's Road, or at least a small portion of Sinner's Road, because you were just lost, and that fear was just kind of getting to you. And again, that's more so just a good job of the atmosphere in this game overall. But Act 2, it's really good. You're spending most of the time in the citadel just exploring around, trying to find the key pieces needed to get to the very top of the kingdom, Farloom, which is, oh boy, it's quite a journey to get there. You have to do a lot of things to get to the top of Farloom. I think if I remember correctly, you have to learn 3 melodies is an ability you unlock as time progresses. I think it's right after you beat the final judge, which that boss is also really good. It's when you beat the final judge, you unlock the ability to play the music, I think, and then you use that to get into the citadel. Anyways, you have to unlock 3 certain melodies to get to the very top, which is the cradle. And that area, it's a small area. It's similar to the Black Egg Temple in a Hollow Knight, where you have to just go through a little bit of platforming or just a little bit of movements, and then you've reached the boss, the final boss, which is the Silk Grandmother, which I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of an underwhelming fight. I thought it was going to be really difficult, but it's still not a bad fight. It's fairly easy to avoid its attacks. I got decently far into it in my first attempt, but it just took me a couple of attempts to beat it, mostly because it's really easy to just telegraph its attacks. And also I had the Reaper, so it's easier to for me to pogo, because I don't like the Hunter's build. But yeah, I think the Silk Grandmother is good final boss. It's decent, but just not like what I was gonna expect. Obviously Act 3, it's much more stuff going on, which I'm just gonna try to describe Act 3 in like a few words and not get too into it, because the game still has just came out, so try to not spoil people about Act 3. Like, I can talk about Act 1 and 2, but Act 3 in my opinion
it's done well. It's really good, and it sounds like I'm just glazing the game, but I've clearly pointed out some complaints I have with this game. But Act 3 overall, it's done well because the atmosphere is just different. It's kind of terrifying, to be honest, but unlocking Act 3 is a fucking bitch. It's a fucking bitch to do. You have to do a lot to unlock Act 3 just to get it, and some stuff is locked behind Act 3, such as, like I said, your final nail upgrade and a couple certain things, quests of that sort of nature. Some things that were in Act 2, if you didn't do them, I don't think you could do them anymore in Act 3, because Act 3 is kind of just a completely separate thing from the main game. It's not a different world or anything, but I don't want to talk too much about it. But I think Act 3 was done really well, and the final boss of Act 3, it was difficult as all hell, but it was just really damn good overall. I talked about some minor complaints here, but I do want to get into the complaints I have about this game, what I did not like about this game. So the decision to, okay, this is an Act 3 spoiler, so again, but it's a minor spoiler, and I don't think it's really that big of a spoiler. So the decision to kind of make the coral area into just a gauntlet, I did not like that. I think in the original trailer it looked to be a full area, and that area looks visually stunning, so it's kind of unfortunate that it never, you know, actually became a full area and it's just a gauntlet. I would have liked to see like a full coral tower area that had multiple paths to explore, and that's just not what was the case in Silksong or in the final game. Some bosses were not good, as I mentioned, the one on Biowater, the Savage Beastfly, those are just the notable ones that everybody talks about, so I just want to get that out the way. I agree with people bitching about those because those bosses suck. Some areas, Biowater, Putrefied Ducks, those areas fucking suck. The Mist, oh boy, you can't talk about the Mist. I struggled a lot in the Mist. The raids, they terrify me because I was just playing with headphones and I heard the raid scream. I was scared. I had to put my controller down for like 10 minutes, just be like, holy shit, I got scared like that. But overall, it was just really difficult to get through that area, especially because I didn't know that you had to play the strings to get through that area, and that area leads to a boss in Biowater, which was okay. But yeah, the Mist sucks. We don't speak about it. Mount Faye, like I said, Mount Faye is kind of an area. It's more so just a platforming challenge to get the wings. Aside from that, there's not much else to do. And same goes with the slab. It's also a really small area. I don't like that some areas are really small while others feel like a big area that don't really have much to do, if that makes any sense. Now the side quests, they're mixed in my opinion. I have mixed feelings about the side quests in this game, primarily because some of them are just like just merely fetch quests, and some of them can actually mean, oh, you need to do this to, you know, unlock Act 3 or get a certain item. So if you don't like doing side quests in general and want to play Act 3, you must do side quests, which sure, I guess, but not everyone's going to like side quests, and I'm personally not a huge side quest fan, especially in like RPGs. And in Silksong, I think some of them were fine, but most of them were like, I really don't care much about it. They were just like fetch quests to me. So yeah, that's also what I wanted to say. Yeah, I think that's a general overview of what I really wanted to say about this game. Am I ever going to make a full-length video on this game? I think I will, but that's gonna be in months time, because again, this is just a rant video and I just wanted to kind of just yap and just make a YouTube video again. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to say about Silksong, and I'm going to talk about YouTube stuff in a bit. So yeah, that's all I want to say about Silksong. So as for the channel, I've been busy because of college and gym and all that stuff, so I haven't really took the time to, you know, focus on YouTube or editing in general. But now that I've gotten better at juggling all that stuff, I think I can make a decent schedule, maybe like a once a 3-week upload type of thing. Again, no guarantee because things happen in real life, and that's all I want to say. You can follow my Twitter if you'd like to. That's where I'm most active, or I tweet about stuff outside of gaming. That's just a short update on the channel. I'm going to make videos on other games as well and other game topics. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about the channel update, but I just wanted to keep it short, and that's all I have to say about this video and the channel. So as always, enjoy yourselves and have a good one.